Okay, before I start, okay, please turn off all your WhatsApp, electronic device, so not to disturb this class. And having said that, okay, once you are done turning off, Joanne, okay, can you turn down your camera? I can't see you. Okay, tune it down. Same for Zachary. Yeah, stop playing Bollywood, everyone. Okay, play Bollywood, then you will be put in the waiting room. Zachary, can you tilt your camera a bit down? Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Zachary. Okay, so thank you once again for joining me in this very hot Sunday afternoon. Like I've said, okay, please turn off your WhatsApp, okay, or WhatsApp web especially. Okay, we don't need that for the next 1.5 to 2 hours. And yeah, today we are going to potentially end earlier. Okay, it depends on how fast we are able to cover today's concept. And without further ado, okay, let us look at what we are going to cover today. So we are going to do a quick recap first. Okay, so what are the concepts that we need to recap on? Okay, last week was a lecture test, right? So we are going to recap on the concept before lecture test. So what have we covered before lecture test? Do you all still remember? Yeah, the faster you all participate, hey, like I've said, the earlier we can dismiss. Okay, so we have covered A, D, and AS, right? So now, okay, everyone chip in something, potluck. Hey, which aspect of AD and AS have we covered? Without looking at your notes. Especially for the first year students in this group, right? Okay, which are the ADAS concepts that we have covered? So what is AD first? What does AD stands for? AD stands for? Come on, without looking at your notes, AD stands for what? Okay, aggregate demand. So aggregate demand tells us that this is the summation of all your demand curves, right? Summation of all demand from consumers, firms, government, and your foreign sector. What about AS? What does AS represent? Type it out, please. Type it out, quick. If you don't type, I'll ask you to unmute already. Okay, it stands for aggregate supply. So similarly, we are going to sum up all your supply curves. Okay, just that in this case, okay, the supply curve will look a little bit different, right? So just want to put all of your understanding to test. How does the AS curve look like? Okay, what was the term used to describe? How does it look like? What's the shape of the AS curve? So today will be very intensive recap. A half U. Okay, in theory that works. Okay, but we have to sum it up into one word. What is the one word? Okay, your AS curve will look like a. In case I didn't mention this, bow shape. Okay, it's a bow shape. Okay, so later on we'll talk about the bow shape. Okay, in a short while. So why are we learning AD and AS? Because the school tells us to know that. Okay, so this is the most important topic. Okay, for my first year students, okay, this topic will matter whether you promote or you retain. Okay, that's as simple as that. Okay, so please make sure you know, okay, this framework by heart, and you are able to apply it and distinguish it from demand and supply. Okay, so demand and supply is the language that we use in micro. ADA and AS is the language that we use in macro. Okay, so you have to distinguish when is it quizzing you on micro and when is it quizzing you on macro. Clear, everyone? Okay, so we'll go through some of the practice or selected questions and you'll probably differentiate that in a short while. Okay, so let's do a quick content recap. Alright, so we have distinguished between micro and macro. Okay, so let's look at what have we covered under micro and macro. Okay, so we can see that for micro, okay, the focus is on the price adjustment process. Okay, so in macro, not so much of price adjustment process. Later on, I will show you all, I will cover the multiplier process. It's going to be more process centric, okay, than micro. In micro, remember, we are always looking out for a shortage and upward pressure on price, right? Likewise, a surplus and a downward pressure on price. Not so much in macro anymore. Okay, not so much. Unless we are referring to inflation, okay, which is not the syllabus for this year. Okay, so this year, okay, all of you are spared from going through inflation. I'm not sure whether is it covered in your school though, okay, for this year, but I'm pretty sure economic growth will be covered. Yes, can I confirm? My first year students, economic growth will be part of your exam topic. Yeah, no, there's no price stability, huh? There's only one goal you will learn, right? All you need to do is just to flip all the way to the back. I don't know whether your notes will extend to next year or not. Yeah, but based on what I know lah, okay, we'll stop at economic growth. Okay, then the rest of the goals no need to know. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, Okay, so we are concerned about shifting of your AD and AS. And just like micro, we are concerned about demand and supply, right? Shifting of the demand and supply. Macro will be AD and AS. We are concerned about the shifting. So just do a quick recap. What is the acronym that we use for demand to illustrate shifting in demand? What is the acronym that we use? Micro. Okay. Good, Raphael. What about the rest? What is the acronym? Good, Zach. Alright, Joanne. Okay, that is for PED. That is not for demand. Okay, so Egypt. Okay, is for demand. What about supply? Okay, what is the acronym? Quick. Okay, web pigs. So you have to know the determinants, and there's a striking similarity between the two. Okay, especially when we are concerned about supply and AS. Okay, the determinants are more or less the same. Okay, but for AD, okay, can you still recall what are the determinants that affect AD? Okay, I covered this last week. Okay, it's not an acronym. It's a string of alphabets. Good, Zach. What's the string of alphabets? What are the determinants that affect your AD? Okay, we are concerned about consumer expenditure, investment expenditure, government expenditure, and net exports. CIGX minus M. Please pen this down. So these are the two differences. And when you go on to zoom into all the respective alphabets, then you can actually see that there are some traces of Egypt among these alphabets. Okay, so I will not go in depth for now. Okay, I just want to stop at where it is. So AD is CIGX minus M, demand is Egypt. Okay, so another term that we actually use to differentiate between micro and macro is the illustration of shortage and surplus. I hope you still remember. Okay, so we no longer use shortage. Okay, for macro, we'll be using unplanned inventory depletion. In other words, okay, the firms actually experience a wipeout, okay, or their inventory is depleting at a faster rate. Okay, when it's depleting at a faster rate, okay, it simply means that there's a shortage of goods and services. Okay, likewise, okay, if your inventory is accumulating at a faster rate, it simply means that the dog is here. You want to go out or not? You see, we practice democracy at home. You want to go out or you want to stay? Hey, give me a second, let me on my lights, very dark. You know, I don't like to put this on air, especially when I'm recording. But do you all feel sometimes when your sibling come into your room, okay, they open the room, and you feel like your privacy has been intruded? Do you all feel that? Yeah, and this is like my spouse, and I can't tell her that, hey, this is not the right time to come in, right? And my dog, you know. Yeah, so this is some of the hazards when you work or you study from home. So as far as possible, I try to lock the door. But whenever I lock the door, then this will lead to an argument. Because the room is a shared space, so to speak. Yeah. But anyway, sorry for digressing. I just airing out some of my my frustrations. Yeah, I seek all your understanding, especially my dog sometimes come in without permission, go out without permission, bark without permission. Oh yes, okay, so surplus. Okay, so we are concerned about your inventory levels that is going to be accumulating faster than expected. So it simply means that the producers aren't selling as much as they like. Okay, and therefore, okay, there will be an accumulation of goods and services. Okay, and this will lead to what? Okay, downward pressure on price, just that we don't use that here. Okay, we use unplanned inventory accumulation. So get to know these two terms by heart, because later on I will introduce you a new framework. And this new framework requires you to use these two terms interchangeably by identifying a shortage or a surplus first. Is everyone clear? Okay. So last week we also went through effects of AD, right? Okay, do you still remember the context of increase or fall in AD? Okay, so an increase in AD can be caused by increase in any of the C, I, G, X minus M. Okay, a fall in AD, okay, will be a fall in C, I, G, and X minus M. Just for my first year students, just a quick show of hands. Have you all started ADAS already? Started already? One yes, one no. Yeah, first year student. Okay, one yes and one no, right? Okay. Sorry, the question wasn't meant for you, Zach. You have to know this. Okay, so have you all started circular flow already? First year students? Okay, so first, one yes and one no again. So first, circular flow I won't be covering it today lah. Okay, so it seems like the order gets a bit lopsided. I'm not sure why one of you cover circular flow, the other cover ADAS first. Okay, but anyway, whichever it is, okay, let's stick to whatever they have discussed. Okay, so remember, you have to get the direction right. Later on in the practice question, you have to identify the determinants of the AD. Okay, so I'll give you a very upfront hint now. Later on, you're supposed to use ADAS and ADAS framework. And the determinant that will be exemplified later will be an AD factor. So you have to be exceptionally sensitive to AD factors. Right? And if you look at your notes, for those who have received your ADAS notes, you realize that under each of these alphabet, there is a very chunky length of things to note, right? Right, under C, we have what? Wealth, that kind of thing, interest rate. Under I, a lot of things. So I want you all to study smart. Now remember, okay, it's not how hard you study, it's how smart you study. Okay, so some of the sub-determinants, okay, they are used across several factors. Like for instance, interest rate can be seen in consumer and investment. Then you probably want to know that. Right? Tax can be seen in consumer, can be seen in firms. Then we also want to know that. Okay, so identify the common denominator across your school notes. Alright, so what was the example that was used last week? And most of the time, the question won't tell you directly is it an increase in C or fall in I, or they won't tell you directly. But they will tell you this. For instance, when there is a fall in direct tax, which component will be affected? Type it out now. You see? So you have to deduce, right? Come out with CIGX minus M. So which component will be affected as a result of fall in tax? Will it affect consumption? Will it affect investment? Will it affect government spending? Or will it affect net exports? So this is how you want to study. Okay? So a fall in direct tax, okay, will affect both C and I. Okay, so this is the second biggest problem. Some of the students, they know how to identify the determinants, but they are unable to build the depth. Okay, what is required, okay, in this? So I want you all to focus on the depth and take notes, please. So how is direct tax related to consumption? How are we going to connect the dots? So when there is a fall in direct tax, okay, we can assume that this is a personal income tax is going to go down, right? Okay, when personal income tax goes down, what is going to happen next? What is the keyword? So it's very keyword centric. You have to be very familiar with the sequence. Okay, when personal income tax falls, this will lead to higher disposable income. Right? Okay, so households are going to pay lesser tax. As a result of paying lesser tax, disposable income arise. And when disposable income rise, this will lead to higher purchasing power. Okay, and this will lead to higher consumption. So do you all see the connection of everything? Very important to get the keywords right again. Okay, especially disposable income. Disposable income is uniquely household. Okay, firms are not concerned about disposable income. So what are firms concerned about when there is a fall in direct tax? What's the word used? Okay, I believe I covered this. Did you all copy down? So as a result of a fall in direct tax, how does it affect investment? Okay, then we can assume that your corporate income tax is going to fall. Okay, and when your corporate income tax has fallen, it simply means that firms are going to pay more or pay less as tax. More or less, type it out. Type it out, more or less. Thanks, Zach. If corporate income tax rates has fallen, if you are a firm, would you pay more or pay less as tax? Out of your profit, pay less. Okay, so there will be an increase in your post-tax profit. See that? It's keyword post-tax profit, and this will lead to higher investment. So there are two moving parts here. The first moving part is you have to relate whatever there is stated in the case to the particular determinant. Once you are able to establish the link, the next is to elaborate on the depth. Okay, so what do you want to elaborate? These are the keywords that you want to elaborate. Okay, and every determinant, okay, has different factors that affect the determinant. I'm just raising one of them for your illustration. And you can see that this actually affects both C and I. Very powerful, right? Okay, so I want you all to look through your notes. Identify the factors that are seen, okay, across several determinants and be familiar with that. Okay, they are unlikely to test you all those small ones. Agreed? Okay, they're likely to test you more things that are more common. Okay, and also be familiar with the direction. Okay, so if C and I goes up, this will lead to higher AD. Okay, you have to get the direction right. Okay, AD will shift to the right. Okay, likewise, okay, if we were to flip the arrow when there's an increase in direct tax, then everything will flip. Okay, corporate income tax will rise, post-tax profit will fall. Okay, and investment will fall. Okay, so if direct tax increases, your personal income tax is going to go up. Okay, you're going to have lesser disposable income as a result of higher personal income tax rendered. Okay, your purchasing power will be worsened and you will spend lesser. Consumption goes down. Okay? So later on, the practice question is not necessarily direct tax. Let me repeat. So you have to be familiar with all the alphabets. Right? Okay, especially when, okay, I'll just give you a few hints, okay, which are the things to look out for. Okay, when you see government spending, then has to be government. Make sense? You have to look out for government spending on infrastructure projects. Okay, especially when it talks about, trade. And when you see many countries, okay, when you see more than one countries, then you have to be concerned whether trade is involved. Why do they show multiple countries? Do you think you can trade within yourself? Trade doesn't occur. Trade occurs when there is more than one trading partner, right? So you need someone else to trade with, to export your goods to and to import your goods from. Okay, especially when you see several countries being tested together, okay, pay attention to trade. And of course, okay, there are other mock clues. You'll eventually get there. Okay, I just want you all to pay attention to all these key terms. Okay, government spending is the easiest. Okay, followed by consumption and investment. Okay, net exports is the hardest. Okay, net exports, you also want to look out for exchange rate. Okay, today we won't be talking about exchange rate. I will spare you that. Don't need to talk about that. Okay? So far, AD, any questions? Getting the direction right? Okay, so now let's test you out with one more. Now, when there is business optimism, can you tell me which component is affected? Business optimism. There is no need to refer to your notes, don't panic. All you need to is just to think. Business optimism. Out of that few alphabets, which one is likely to be affected? Okay, good, Raphael. So when there is optimism, what is going to happen to the term that you suggest? So first of all, you have to ask yourself, okay, is business optimism going to affect consumer, firm, government, or foreign sector? Okay, so as it turns out, business optimism is slightly related to firms, right? Okay, firms will find that expected profitability will be higher. So the keyword here is expected profitability. They expect to be more profitable. Then in that case, they are going to make investments. See, is it difficult? It's not that difficult, but you have to distinguish AD and AS factors. Till now, okay, I still have a lot of second year students that can't differentiate that. Okay, so remember, okay, AD and AS factors, you need to look out for what? Okay, so the key differentiating point is factor of production. So later on, I will talk about that, factor of production. Okay? So I've gone through I've gone through a recap on page 64 to 66 on AD already. Okay, if not, you can refer to the lesson last week. Okay, we have covered this quite in depth. Okay, so my suggestion for all of you watching this is by no means to factor spam and to force more content down your throat. Okay, it's about how you harness or utilize knowledge. Okay, so how you harness or utilize them is to identify which is the common denominator across all the determinants. Okay, and know a few by heart. Direct tax, interest rate, right? Okay, exchange rate. Okay, these are the main few. Clear, everyone? Okay, so aggregate supply. Let's look out for page 67. Okay, I have covered page 67 last week, but let's do a quick recap. Okay, so page 67, it is a bowl shape, right? And last 2 weeks, the week before, I covered that there are 3 components in your AS curve. Do you all still remember what are the components? Which are the components of the AS curve that we want to look out for? So which are the 3 components that's in the book? Quick. Okay, let's all flip to page 67. Thanks. Okay, we can see that the first component is the AS range. Okay, the horizontal part of the AS curve. Second component, intermediate range when it's upward sloping. Third component, vertical range or your classical region. So remember to know these 3 by heart. Okay, does your school use these three illustration? Yes or no? Same? Okay, Keynesian intermediate, classical region. If not, at least they should use vertical or horizontal range. This is the part that we want to avoid. Okay, so last week I covered this before. Okay, there is a very good reason why is it shaped like that. Okay, so the key difference between supply and AS curve, supply is an upward sloping supply curve. This is a bowl shape. So why is it shaped like that? Why is your AS curve, in other words, okay, it exhibits 3 different kinds of elasticity. Okay, we can see that down here, okay, your PES is price inelastic. Okay, or to be more specific, perfectly price inelastic, right? Sorry, perfectly price elastic. What am I talking about? Perfectly price elastic. Okay, followed by relatively price elastic. Followed by perfectly price inelastic. So you have to identify that there are 3 range, and each of these 3 range tells us a different story. Okay, why is your AS curve perfectly horizontal initially? Okay, so we have to know that it is very near the origin, right? Okay, so when it's very near the origin, it simply tells us that there is what? Abundance of resources. Okay, abundance of factor inputs. They are still not employed yet. Okay, so from the PES side, we are looking out for the concept of spare capacity. So firms are likely to have what? Okay, a lot of spare capacity. Okay, at very low level of production. Okay, their machines, their workers are not utilized. Therefore, they can respond to price changes really well. Okay, perfectly price elastic. Is everyone following me? So the concept here is spare capacity. Okay, and we can see that as it moves closer and closer to the right, then it starts to slope upwards. When it starts to slope upwards, it simply means that spare capacity will be exhausted. If we want to produce more goods and services, we need to hire more factory resource. And inevitably, resource is going to be finite, right? Then in that case, your producers will have to offer higher wages to beat up factor prices, and therefore your price level will go up. And the last part is the classical region. Classical region simply tells us that this is your limit of the production. You cannot produce beyond your limit unless you experience an outward shift in your AS curve. If not, limit is limit. Right? Have you all experienced any form of limitation? Like for instance, Mr. Teo only have 24 hours a day. If everyone wants to see me, the max I can see is 24 students. Right? Even if I don't sleep, the max I can see is 24 students. Unless you can extend the daytime for Mr. Teo, otherwise it's not possible. So you can see this is Mr. Teo's limit. When there is more and more students. But when there is very, very little students, then in that case, Mr. Teo can afford to have a lot of spare capacity. Do you see that? Because this is how we want to conceptualize from the firm's perspective. So sometimes we can actually see that your vertical region is they'll call this term called YF. Have you encountered YF before? What does YF stands for? Type it out. YF stands for what? Full employment output. It simply means this is the maximum amount of production that the economy can produce at any given time period. So unless there's an increase in your production capacity, if not, your full employment output will remain capped. Okay? So far so good? So remember, later on when you draw this, make sure it is bow shape. And you always combine this with an AD diagram. So last week I also briefly covered, 2 weeks back I also briefly covered the 4 direction shift, right? Up, down, left, right. So when you're concerned about up and down, we are concerned about production costs. If we are concerned about left and right, we are concerned about FOP. Or sometimes if you look at your notes, they can suggest temporary or permanent shocks. So cost of production factors are generally temporary. Whereas permanent shocks are what? Are factors that will deplete your FOP, or will increase your FOP in the long term. So especially for short run, this is exceptionally confusing. Decrease and increase. So a lot of students cannot conceptualize why shifting downwards is increase, why shifting upwards is decrease. So in other words, if you hold your output constant, you can see that when it increase, you are going to enjoy lower price level. When it decrease, you are going to incur higher production cost or higher price level. I'm so sorry, man. I don't know why every Sunday, the neighbors will never fail to come and say hi to my dog. And this is how my dog responds. Can you all hear my dog? Yeah, I sometimes I feel like strangling my neighbor's kids. All these are going to be captured. But I can't tell them that you don't come to my house, right? They all have this experience before? See, everyone wants a piece of me. My wife will come in and disturb me. My dog will come in and disturb me. My neighbor, even though unknowingly, also come and disturb me. So do you all have any suggestions for that? If you have, please put it down on the chat function. I'll be more than happy to take. Soundproofing my room, right? Yeah, okay. The next thing is going to soundproof my windows, soundproof my door, soundproof. That will cost probably a few $1,000s. Let's see how that goes. Yeah. Okay, so the point I'm trying to illustrate is this. It can be very confusing, okay, for you to illustrate up and down, increase and decrease from the SRAS perspective or short run aggregate supply perspective. Okay, so what I suggest, okay, is to stick to direction when you talk about AS. Okay, stick to direction. Direction will be up, down, left, and right. Don't use increase and decrease. Okay, for AS curve especially. Because of its unique situation as a bowl shape, we have to take care of the horizontal side and the vertical side. Clear? So left and right is applicable for your long run aggregate supply. Up and down is applicable for short run aggregate supply. Clear? So now, okay, I'm going to quiz you. So when there is higher wages, okay, which one will be affected? How will your AS curve shift? Up, down, left, or right? Pick one direction. Higher wages. So first of all, we have to deduce higher wages is a production cost, right? So production cost is going to go up. Will that lead to change in your permanent production capacity? Unlikely. Okay, so your full employment output remains the same. So it's going to cause your AS curve to shift up. Shift up. All right, so now let's try another one. Okay, so you have to be clear. Okay, so if your production cost goes up, okay, your SRAS curve will go the same direction. Okay, so if we were to put it in ADAS perspective, I'm going to slot the AD curve here. Then you can see it better. Okay, for those who have learned the full ADAS process, we can see that as a result of a higher production cost, okay, you will experience a fall in your real output. Okay, eventually you have to fill the gap. Okay, so the whole idea is this. Okay, because of higher production costs, if you are a producer, would you hire more or hire less workers? Hire more or hire less? Type it out. Exactly. When you hire less workers, you're going to produce lesser goods and services, right? And therefore, there's going to be a fall in your real national income. So therefore, the keyword here is decrease. Okay, it's going to be more consistent with your real national output. So remember, okay, you have to get the direction right. Very important. Okay, let's try another one. Technology advancement. Can you all tell me where is your AS curve going to shift? Up, down, or left, right? Up and down is only applicable for short run. Left and right, long run. Pick one. Technological advancement. You have to ask yourself, will it affect your production cost or will it affect your availability of your factor of production or the productivity of your factor of production? Technological advancement. So when there's technological advancement, will you be able to produce more or produce less? Type it out. Type it out. Technological advancement. Well, you're going to produce more, right? Okay, so when you're going to produce more, okay, is this going to be permanent or temporary? Okay, it's likely to be permanent. Okay, so your AS curve is going to shift to the right. And just now someone brought shifting down. Shifting down is also correct. Okay, because technology can also help you to save production costs. So this is how it looks like from an advanced perspective. I don't expect any of you all to use, okay? But if you understand, good. If you all don't understand, no good. But at least get the basics right. Okay, so for those who are more advanced or more adventurous, okay, your AS curve can potentially be shifted like that. Okay, shift right and shift down. Do you see that? Okay, it's a simultaneous shift. Okay, last question. What happens when there is a war? Okay, destroying many factories. Okay, how is your AS curve going to be affected? Shift where? War. Up, down, or left, right? Type, please. Up, down, left, or right? Okay, so when there is a war, okay, it simply means that there's going to be casualties, right? It also simply means that your capital goods will be depleted, right? Okay, factories will be made redundant. Okay, when there are casualties, it means that there are lesser factor of production. Agreed? Lesser workers to work with. Is it temporary? Unlikely. Okay, because there's a permanent depletion of your factor of production. So your AS curve is going to shift left. Okay, your long run aggregate supply is going to shift to the left. So please get this right. Very, very important, especially for those who didn't participate. Okay, please get this right. Okay, put a star, okay, when you're revising your AS. Okay, it seems that there are some conceptual gaps here. Okay, so I'm going to move on to today's focus. Okay, so for today's focus, okay, I will go on to the adjustment process. Okay, the adjustment process, okay, I will use the full multiplier adjustment process. So later on, you're supposed to illustrate that in depth. Okay, so what do we mean by the full multiplier process? So let me quickly go through the lesson objective today. So earlier on, we have did a very intense recap on the AD and AS factors. Okay, so today we are going to put both of them together and we are going to uncover how the full multiplier process arises. Okay, and this will be expected in your illustration earlier on. Okay, and after that, okay, we'll be going through how this particular concept will be tested. Okay, so for the full multiplier process, okay, I will just keep it simple for all of you. Okay, you may want to pen this down. Please write this at the very last page of your book. Okay, the very last page of your book, okay, there's going to be some blank pages. Okay, please utilize the blank pages. Okay, please copy that down. Okay, so full multiplier process or the ADS process, okay, you'll often see this in my remarks. It's just like your externality framework. For your Soy Plus assignments that you submit, if I put that your externality framework is incomplete, it simply means that there is gaps in your externality framework. If you miss any of the steps, okay, it's exceptionally dangerous. You're on your own. Okay, and you will lose depth marks. Okay, so please stick to whatever that we have discussed today. You may or may not understand what I'm covering today, but eventually you will. Okay, so please listen carefully. Okay, so full multiplier process. Okay, you want to state the y-axis. Please join me in drawing and the x-axis. Okay, for my first year students, anyone learn multiplier already? First year students. Circular flow? Circular flow, one of you learn, right? Okay, so general price level and real national income. So make sure you draw this. So when you draw your ADAS diagram, okay, make sure you draw a long runway. Very long. Go upwards. Alright, so most of the time, okay, if we are supposed to illustrate the ADAS process, we are concerned about a shift in the AD. Okay, for some strange reason, okay, AD is tested more often than AS. It's not that AS is not tested. Okay, I would say 70-30. This is the ratio lah. Oh, okay, or 60-40. They are slightly more tested than AS factors. Okay, so we are going to start with AD here. Remember, we are always concerned about what? The intersection. So the intersection between your AD and AS will give you your equilibrium output level. Please call this Y. Please don't call this Q. Okay, we are no longer in micro. We can no longer afford to call this Q anymore. Okay, and this is your price level. Okay, so remember earlier on the illustration that we used was what? A fall in direct tax, right? Do you still remember a fall in direct tax? Oh, my dog is driving me nuts. I don't know who is outside the door. I really have no energy to handle that. I'm struggling down here to focus on your, and there again there are people outside that are not helping me. Okay, direct tax. Okay, let's focus on the fall in direct tax. Okay, let's work out and see how it's going to turn out to be. So we can see that when there is a fall in direct tax, okay, let's focus on one of them. When there's a fall in personal income tax, right? Just now we successfully deduced that this is going to lead to a higher disposable income, higher purchasing power, and higher consumption. Okay, and this will lead to higher AD. So far, everyone following me? Later on, it's not necessary like that. Okay, so you have to deduce first. Okay, which is the determinant that causes your AD to increase. Okay, therefore consumption is here. So if you were to illustrate from a diagram perspective, this is how it looks like. Okay, do you see that? Okay, but I will need you all to write more. Okay, I'm going to give you all a 6-step framework. Okay, so please jot down the 6-step framework. So your step number 1, you want to identify the determinant that causes your AD to increase. So the determinant down here, in this case, will be your personal income tax. So every extract will present you a different determinant. So make sure you get the determinant right. Okay, so this will affect your AD. Okay, so please pen down. Step 1, determinant of AD. Okay, so step 2, we are concerned about direction of your AD. Okay, so in this case, your AD is going to shift upwards. Okay, this will lead to an increase in consumption and AD. Is everyone clear? So this is the easiest two-step work that you can deduce right up front. How is it going to affect AD and which direction? Increase or decrease? So far so good? Anyone lost up to here? So we can see that determinant is personal income tax. This will lead to an increase in consumption and increase in AD. So step number 3, is to identify the output gap. Okay, when I mention output gap, I am actually asking you to identify whether is it a shortage or a surplus. Okay, from a micro perspective. Remember, just now I've gone through several terms that's interchangeable. So when there's an increase in AD or increase in demand, okay, let's look from the micro perspective. When there's an increase in demand, will it lead to a shortage or surplus? Type it out. When there's an increase in demand, shortage or surplus? Okay, good. Shortage. Remember, just now I've covered that we don't use the word shortage. What do we use in replacement? Very good, Zach. What's the term that we use to replace shortage? when your goods are depleted faster than you would like. This will lead to a unplanned inventory depletion. Very important. You must identify the output gap. Okay, so you need to switch identifying shortage to surplus to identifying unplanned inventory depletion or accumulation. So in this case, there will be an unplanned inventory depletion. Okay. So step 4. Okay, as a result of an unplanned inventory depletion, you will want to state what happens to your production. Okay, so when your production is depleted at a faster rate, okay, what are producers going to do? Are they going to increase or are they going to reduce their current production to meet the current demand? So when there is a rapid depletion of your inventories, this actually prompts producers to step up their production, right, to meet the existing demand. And when producers step up their production, okay, there will be a higher or lower derived demand for labor. You have to pick one. Okay, so if producers are responding to a faster depletion of their inventory by stepping up their production, okay, do you think they will hire more workers or hire less workers? Type it out. Hire more or less? Let me repeat. If your inventory is depleting faster and producers will want to respond, okay, to a higher demand of goods and services by what? Okay, by stepping up their production, then labor is a derived demand of goods and services. Okay, when demand for goods and services goes up, what happens to derived demand for labor? It goes up or goes down? You're going to have a higher derived demand for labor. Very crucial. So up to step 4, okay, you should more or less get it. Okay, step 5 onwards, there is going to be tricky. Okay, so I'm so sorry I ran out of space. Okay, let me see if I can extend further. So step 5, okay, you are going to illustrate, okay, how does higher demand, the derived demand for labor leads to higher household income. Okay, let me repeat. Okay, when there's a higher derived demand for labor, okay, this is going to result in a higher or lower household income, right? Yes, because labor take home income. Agreed? So when labor take home income, okay, when they receive higher or lower household income, they are inclined to spend. Okay, so this will lead to a higher or lower induced consumption. Okay, so this is a term that unfortunately I haven't got a chance to cover this in depth. Okay, I promise you step 5 will be covered in depth under multiplier. So in other words, okay, when workers receive higher household income, they are going to spend more. So the word induce simply means that as a result of receiving more income, they spend more. If they receive lesser income, they spend less. Okay, or they cut back in spending. Okay, so you want to illustrate that, okay, with all this induced consumption. So you can see that when household receive more income, okay, then they will spend more. Okay, when they spend more, then this will go through this entire process again. It will go back to step 1. When household starts to spend, then this will lead to higher consumption, right? Then this will lead to a further unplanned inventory depletion. Okay, producers is going to step up the production to meet a bigger depletion of their inventory. Then this will lead to a higher derived demand for labor. So you can see this like a flow. especially when it reach step 5. Step 5 will trigger step 1 again. Because of higher induced consumption, okay, this will lead to another round of increase in AD. So all you need to know is this: the entire ADAS process on surface it looks like a one-off shift. Okay, but if you were to break it down, you can see that your AD is going to increase multiple rounds. Okay, from AD0 to AD0 prime. And after that, it's going to increase a bit more. Okay, to AD0 prime prime. Okay, and ultimately it will sum up to AD1. So you can see that, okay, the initial spending from the black to the orange tells us this is the initial trigger. Okay, the personal income tax, okay, will trigger the initial spending of consumption. And when we reach step 5, then it will trigger multiple rounds of induced consumption. So you can see that your AD will keep increasing. But it will keep increasing at a slower rate. Okay, I'll explain in the future why is it going to be increasing at a slower rate. Okay, so you got to use the keyword here. Okay, this will lead to multiple increase or multiple fall in your induced consumption. Okay, and you want to relate to the concept of cycles of spending and respending. Okay, so if household receive more income, okay, then there's an induced consumption. Okay, household will spend more. Then this will trigger the second round of AD increasing. Then they will go through cycles of spending and respending. Okay, so what do we mean by spending and respending? Okay, respending means that spending, we know this is the initial phase, the initial trigger. Respending means that when household receive more income, they spend more. Then this will trigger another round. This is what we call respending. Okay, so you can see that as a result of cycle of spending and respending, you can see that there will be a multiple increase or multiple fall in your income level. Okay, so this is how you see. Okay, so initially we on paper on surface we see that it increased from Y0 to Y1, right? Okay, but if we were to look into the process, we were to look inside, okay, then we can see that there is multiple increase. Do you see that? Multiple increase. So the whole idea behind explaining all this in depth, okay, especially step 5 onwards, is what we're going to cover in multiplier. Okay, so we haven't covered this yet, so it's okay, never mind. Okay, if you don't get this right this time round, it's okay. Make sure you just get the step work right. Okay, I'm going to spend more time to explain this in the future. Okay, but I just give you a very quick or simple illustration of multiplier. Anyone cannot cycle here? Who cannot cycle? All can cycle? Can or not? Can cycle, right? So let me ask you a question. When you sit on the bike, would you move? You won't move, right? So what is going to propel you? Your first step. So you can see that the first step that you take, okay, is the initial spending. Okay, it's going to give you momentum. Right? So once you step the first step, you realize that you will propel forward. But will you propel forward indefinitely? Yes or no? You will eventually stop, right? Why would you eventually stop? Okay, because your momentum is exhausted because of friction. So from the multiplier perspective, it tells us that, okay, the induced consumption is going to be exploited or it's going to be finished. Okay, because household, okay, they don't spend everything. They receive higher income, okay, they are going to save a portion of that. Agreed? Okay, so the amount that they respend is going to be lesser and lesser and lesser. So the subsequent increase in your AD is lesser and lesser and lesser until, okay, it comes to a stop at AD1. But unless you take another step, if not, you're going to be static at AD1. So this is how the multiplier process can be explained, okay, using the diagram. Okay, so I'm good up to step 5. Okay, please copy this down. So step 6 requires us to talk about your final objective. What do you want to achieve? So unfortunately, we haven't learned a lot of macro goals yet. So this particular objective is quite hazy, right? What kind of objectives are you referring to? Okay, in the future, you can relate this to actual growth. You can relate this to unemployment. Okay, you can relate this to yeah, these are the main two. And later on, we'll see how we are going to use this to relate to standard of living. Okay, standard of living can also be used here. You can illustrate standard of living here. Okay? So notice that I only go through one direction. I only go through increase. Okay, your AD can also fall. Okay, when your AD fall, it will also fall multiple rounds. All you need to is just to flip all the arrows. Okay, you will get your objective. Okay, I won't be. I'll probably show you in drawing later on. Okay, when we use the write up. Okay, or the practice question. All right. Right, so far. Okay, is anyone dying already? Okay, so this is a very powerful framework. Okay, this multiplier process only works for AD. Okay, it doesn't work for AS factors. Okay, and okay, I'm just going to list down the conditions. Only AD. And the next condition is it must be along the spare capacity. Meaning to say it must be at the horizontal portion of the AS curve. Cannot be the vertical part or the intermediate part. Everything must happen at the horizontal part. That's why we are going to have a very long runway. Clear? Okay, so I hope we have gotten this down. If not, we'll do another round recap again later. So for your exam purpose, okay, make sure you are able to identify components of AD and AS from the extract. Okay, adopting the correct ADS framework. Okay, adopting ADS framework for policy-related question and addressing macro objectives. Okay, so unfortunately, you all haven't learned any macro objectives yet. Okay, so the closest one that you all can apply later is standard of living. Okay, especially material standard of living. Okay, so the multiplier adjustment process. Okay, let me repeat. This is one of the most widely abused process. So you have to know when to use it and when not to. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you now. You don't use this for short answer question. Okay, because it's way too extensive already. Okay, so you only use this in essay questions. Essay only. Clear? Large questions. The next time I see someone spamming this, okay, I'm going to give you a straight 0. Alright? Okay, so with this, okay, let's go for a real short break. When we are back, okay, let's attempt the time practice together. So today, I'm going to show you a combination question between standard of living and AD and AS. Okay, we'll see how these two can be combined together. Okay, and this is a very likely promos-based question that you all will see. Okay, see you all in a short while. Okay, great, thanks. We will be looking at this particular question, okay, on Eurozone crisis. Okay, you should be seeing this in your practice folder. Okay, are you seeing the same question? Okay, if you do, okay, I'm going to give you all 5 minutes, okay, to read through this and do an outline. Okay, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 5 lah, 5 lah. Okay, 5 minutes. Because it's a rather short extract, huh? Okay, so quickly jot down an outline. Okay, and I will guide you all on how to execute this. Okay? 5 minutes starts now. So this is probably your first macro essay question. Okay, so I'm not going to spoil the soup and tell you what to do and what not to. Just do however you like. Yeah? Okay, feel free to make mistakes. You can make as many as you want here, not in exam. Okay. Okay, time's up. Stop writing. Thank you. Okay, I would like to see your outline later. And for my first year students, okay, this is a very good exposure for you. As am I right? This is the first time that you are encountering a macro question. Yes. Your first actual writing. Okay, so don't squander this. Okay, whatever that we do today is very precious. Okay, so I would like the first year students to participate, okay, in this outline. Second year student, you can take a break, okay. Okay, second year students can relax for now. Okay, first year students, okay, I would like you all to participate in this random number generator. Okay, so let's keep it simple. Number 0 to 10. Can you all key in a figure? Don't make the number too big. Okay, any figures between 0 to 10, quickly. Okay, then I'll pick one of you to share. Unless my second year students have a strong desire to share, then you can volunteer. Or if not, I'll let the first years share first. Okay, so we have 2 and 4. Okay, so the closest is 4, I believe. Okay, so number 4, can you quickly unmute and share with us how would you approach this question?
So I first said that there has been a decrease in exports.
Okay. Where can we see that?
The
economic heat and foreign trade sector is...
the Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan regions most open, export dependent are likely take.
Okay.
Then India's foreign trade account hovering around negative.
Okay, so we've seen this, foreign trade. So, yes, how is it going to do with the question?
Then I linked the decrease in exports to a decrease in AD.
Okay, so how is it going to do with the question's requirement?
For me, I went like all the way to saying how a decrease in AD, assuming AS remains the same, would mean that the real national income thingy would decrease. And then I said decrease in that implies a decrease in the material standard of living, because material standard of living is like real GDP per capita.
Okay. Go on.
That's it already.
That's it? So this is an essay question. Okay, an essay question, we have to know that, okay, this is what kind of question type is this. Okay, so this is a discuss question. So most likely to be theses and antitheses, yes? Okay, so we have to get this right first. Theses and antitheses. So far so good. First command word here. Now, the second word here tells us that this is affected by the Eurozone crisis. Okay, so what does a crisis suggest? A crisis will suggest that is going to adversely affect economies, right? Yes or no? Yes? So it is more likely that your thesis will be worsening and not worsen. So you have to quickly form out this outline, okay, given what are the command words that are presented in the extract. Clear? Worsen, not worsen. Or worsen, improve. This is how we are going to play around with your thesis and antithesis. Okay? So the next thing is living standards. Okay, what are living standards? Okay, in other words, this is testing you on standard of living. So in your introduction paragraph, you want to introduce what is standard of living. And you want to introduce the components of standard of living, which is material and non-material. And therefore, when you structure your TCs and MTTCs, okay, it has to illustrate how this worsens your material, how this worsens your non-material standard of living. Okay, if it doesn't worsen, okay, you may want to talk about how your material standard of living may stay the same or improve, and how your non-material may stay the same or improve. At least we want to group it like that. Are y'all okay with the grouping? Okay, this is just compartmentalizing. We are not even talking about the content and what to put inside. Huh? So just now, Raphael brought up a very critical point. Okay, there is a fall in trade, right? Because of the Eurozone crisis. And there's a fall in income. Okay, countries are going to buy lesser from one another. Okay, so the determinant that was identified was net exports. So remember, I've gone through this painful cycle down here. Wait. Yeah. Remember, I've gone through this painful cycle down here, these 6 steps. Okay, so later on, I would like you to try utilizing the 6 steps, okay, to explain step by step how your AD will form multiple rounds together with a diagram, and show how your income level form multiple rounds. Okay, I know this is maybe quite daunting, okay, probably for first timers. Okay, I just want you to try. If you cannot, okay, then you probably just show a one-time shift. Good enough. Okay, it's not increasing. This time around AD is falling. You got to show the multiple fall in your AD. Okay, and how does it affect your standard of living? Okay, so the critical condition here you want to use, okay, is the ADAS framework, the 6-step framework. And you want to relate to how a fall in your real national income is going to lead to a fall in your material standard of living. Okay, I'm going to leave it to you how you want to elaborate this. Okay, this particular link must be established. Why does a fall in real national income equates to fall in material standard of living? Clear so far? So now, let's think through how can we exploit this factor. Okay, we are done with factor 1 already. How can we exploit this? How can we relate, okay, a Eurozone crisis to non-material standard of living? Okay, is it suggested anywhere in the extract, okay, that non-material standard of living is worsened? So first of all, you must know what is non-material standard of living, right? These are your qualitative aspects like what? Happiness, okay, like crime rate and all this. So does the extract suggest this? So you have to go through this thought process. Okay, whether the extract suggests that the qualitative aspect has worsened. If not, then how can we connect the dots? Always prioritize the extract. Okay, so for instance, okay, if you run out of resources to develop this point, can you possibly link to what? Okay, this is the worst point to use, but if you really cannot, okay, then you can probably relate to this, right? So when there is a Eurozone crisis, okay, just now we elaborated on this, right? Okay, when there's a fall in AD, there's going to be a fall in real national income. When people are out of job, unemployment arises. Okay, what happens when unemployment arises? How is it going to worsen the qualitative aspect? Raphael, can you try? When people are unemployed, how will it worsen?
More people just feel like that.
Yeah, when you're out of job, okay, it simply means that, okay, you are probably going to experience more stress, more anxiety. Agreed? Okay, or it could promote higher crime rate. Yes? Although these are not suggested in the extract, but at least we can infer. When there's a fall in AD, Okay, we can relate to the qualitative aspect like that. So try later. See whether the extract supports any of this. Try not to use mine unless no choice. So always focus on the thesis. Okay, and your antithesis, you can pick either of this to justify. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to pick either of this. Okay, so the extract planted this human development index for a good reason. What does human development index suggest? Okay, it suggests that human development index has 3 components, right? Do you all still remember what are the 3 components? Okay, it's trying to capture your GDP, your literacy rate, okay, and your what? Okay, and your mortality rate, right? Okay, your infant mortality rate. So in a nutshell, they are trying to capture 3 elements: one health, one education, and one income segment. So now we can actually see that across all the countries, okay, like for instance Singapore, okay, for instance Asian country, right? Let's look out for Asian country, India, China. What does this suggest? When your number becomes bigger, okay, it simply means that your HDI index is improving, right? So all these 3 indicators, or the composite of these 3, must be improving. So if we understood that income is worsening, then despite a worsening of your income, and you see all the indicators are improving, so the only logical reason is these 2 must be doing really well, right? So despite a recession, despite a Eurozone crisis, despite a loss in income, we experience that human development index has improved. So it is likely to tell us a different story for your non-material standard of living, right? Could it be that these Asian countries are doing better in education? Or could it be they are doing better in providing basic access to healthcare? So learn to use data. I'm sorry, my head is blocking. Okay, I'm going to put here. Okay, I'm going to put it here. Use HDI to justify improvement in your standard of living. Especially non-material. Okay? So I've shown you 3 points already. You should be good enough to go. So later on, your focus will be point 1. Point 1 will always be the emphasis. The material aspect is the most important. Okay? The next part is it has to be balanced. If you only have time to come out with 2 points, pick one on the left and one on the right. Okay, this one you can afford to skip. Okay, but it has to be balanced. Is everyone clear? You have to show improve and worsening. Sorry, worsening and improving. Okay, and point 1 must be the first point to be shown. Okay, and after that, you can build a synthesis for my stronger students. Overall, okay, whether it improves or worsens, how? Okay, you have to justify that. Okay? So I've given you all enough tips. Okay, I hope you all will have fun doing this. Okay, I'm going to give you all very good ample time because this is your first time doing a macro question, 20 minutes. Don't squander this. Okay? So I'm going to open 3 breakout rooms. If there's anything that you need to ask me, okay, please reach out to me privately. Okay, 1 second. Recreate 3 breakout rooms. Okay, and 20 minutes. Okay, please join your breakout rooms, yeah? You need me, call me. Joanne, do you see the press for help button?
What?
Do you see the press for help button?
No leh.
There's a ask for help instructor button. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You saw that already, huh?
Yeah, saw already.
Okay, good. You need me, call me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome back, Zach. Okay, go for your short break if you need to. Alright, thanks for joining me. We'll wrap up everything. Okay, we're going through the answers together, and please take down your corrections. Once you're ready, okay, you can turn on your camera. I've uploaded the answer key on the LMS. Okay, so take your corrections as long as you need. Okay, and submit the assignment by tonight 2359. Okay, so maybe we'll kickstart with some challenges. So what were some of the challenges that you encountered earlier on when executing the outline? What are some of the problems that you face? Now, I understand this is your first macro assignment for most of you here. First macro essay. So the learning curve can be a tad too steep, but I'd still like to hear from all of you. What is one particular issue? Synthesis. Okay, synthesis is later I'll talk about that. It's a common problem, but at least you must get your body points right. What about the rest? Okay, this program requires you to be able to articulate, organizing the structure. Cool. Difficulty thinking of how non-material. Okay, non-material is the easiest actually. You'll get the hang of it really soon. Okay, it's material that's the hardest. Okay, so whenever we have standard of living question, okay, and it is paired together with, improve or worsen kind of wording, okay, then you have to be concerned. Do I need to use ADS framework to justify material standard of living? Okay, this is the most common mistake that a lot of students don't use ADS here. Then they will lose out entirely on depth. Clear? Okay, now let's look out for the answer together. Okay, so this is a thesis and antithesis question. It could be affected or it could not be affected, or you can interpret it as improve or worsen and improve. So just now we identified the thesis to be worsen, okay, and the antithesis to be improved. So a lot of students tell me, Mr. Teo, how do I know which one is the thesis and which one is the antithesis? Okay, it's actually quite obvious. Okay, if the question already suggests that this is a crisis, okay, it's unlikely that improving will be your thesis. Okay, because you have to concur with the question, right? The question already tells you that, okay, there is a problem. Okay, so it's going to worsen first, then improve. Okay, so this is how you construct an effective thesis and antithesis. You have to get the organization thought process right first. Okay? So let's quickly run through, okay, what are some of the requirements. Okay, standard of living, okay, it refers to the level of well-being of a country, of an individual of a country. It is measured by material and non-material standard of living, and what are some of the components to illustrate that. Okay, so your material standard of living will be real GDP per cap. Okay, your non-material standard of living, you can use qualitative aspect. Okay, so you want to define the scope of your essay to be worsened or not. Okay, so this is your thesis. Get your thesis right. Okay, so this is the whole ADAS process. I'm going to go through slowly. I want you all to count your step work. Identify which are the steps that are missing. Step number 1. Determinant of AD. So we can see that there's a Eurozone crisis. Okay, whenever there's a crisis, countries are going to experience a fall in purchasing power. Right? And when they experience a fall in purchasing power, there'll be a fall in demand for exports. Or whichever way that can suggest that there is a fall in exports. So these are the keywords that are related. Okay, this is an income factor. Okay, FYI, income factor. Okay, so check your step 1, whether your determinants is clearly identified. Step 2, direction. Direction of AD will be falling. Step 3, unplanned inventory accumulation. You see that inventory is accumulating faster than you like. This is the equivalent of a surplus in micro. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, my wife made me coffee, but these days I don't drink coffee without a straw. Do you know why you must drink coffee with a straw? Do you all drink coffee with straws? Okay, I suggest okay, if you drink coffee, you must always drink with straw. Okay, because coffee is coloring. There's coloring substance. It will stain your teeth. Okay, if you want to see Mr. Teo stain teeth in the past, just ping me. I will send you one of my earlier photos. Okay, I think y'all will be so scared that y'all don't dare to drink coffee next time, or don't dare to drink coffee with straw next time, without straw next time. Okay, so sorry for digressing. Okay, so yes, okay, you want to check step 3. Okay, what is the output gap? Step 4, producer. Okay, so let's verify all the step work. Okay, so a producer will need to produce lesser exports in the next time period. Why? Because there is a fall in demand for exports. Labor is a derived demand, okay, and therefore, okay, there will be a rise in unemployment because there is no need to produce so much goods and services in the first place. Okay, so step 5, you got to state the multiplier process. Okay, so here's the full wording. Okay, so now let's look here. Okay, household will receive lesser income. You see this? Okay, rise in unemployment see, there's a fall in household income here. Okay, when there's a fall in household income, we will go through the reverse multiplier process. Okay, this will lead to multiple fall in induced consumption. Okay, so when there is an initial fall in foreign spending on your goods and services, this will lead to a further worsening of your induced consumption. Household, when they receive lesser income, they spend lesser. Okay, when they spend lesser, the economy will contract even more. So there will be multiple fall in your spending. Okay, so I will go through the full multiplier process next week. Okay, don't be too concerned. I just want you all to check the step work. Okay, we will eventually fine-tune this process properly. Step 5, okay, you want to illustrate through the multiple fall in spending and respending. This will lead to a fall in income level. Multiple fall in income level. So this is the initial fall in net exports. This will lead to multiple fall in consumptions. Okay, and your income level will fall multiple rounds. So the ... is actually all your consumption actually being summed up together. All the fall in your consumption summing up together. They are all the micro consumptions that are falling. Okay, and this will lead to, remember to link. Okay, so this is the part that I didn't illustrate earlier on. Okay, when will your multiplier stop? Okay, so I will talk about this next lesson. Okay, where the stop condition. So in physics, okay, this is likened to be where friction comes in place. Okay, where your momentum actually get entirely exhausted. So in economics, there's another term. Okay, this is the stop condition, where the initial spending or the initial fall in spending equals to all the fall in your withdrawals. If you have learned circular flow, okay, you probably encountered this term before. Okay, the fall in the injections equals to your withdrawal. Do you realize that? Yeah. Okay, it's the same concept. It's the same identical concept. Hey, my H1 student don't need to know circular flow lah. Okay, so relate to material standard of living. So there's going to be a fall in income level, purchasing power, and assuming population remaining the same, your material standard of living will worsen. So you have to make this key assumption. Okay, with a lower income level, this will result in purchasing power being eroded and your population remains the same. Okay, so this is how you want to relate to real GDP per capita. Okay, this one remain the same. Okay, when this falls, then your material standard of living will be worsened. So this is how you measure material standard of living. Crucial, I always link it back here. Okay, so like I've said, if you don't have time, you can always build the counterpoint. Okay, you just need 2 points, don't need 3. Okay, don't need to build this antithesis. No need to build this second point here. Okay, if you can, good. If not, it's fine. Okay, go straight to point number 3 here. Okay, so you can actually see that standard of living in other countries are not worsened off. Okay, how could we justify that? Okay, you can see that China is relatively insulated by the Eurozone crisis. Okay, so if you read here, you can see here, China has been modestly affected. Why is that so? Then you got to justify. A lot of students, okay, they just tell me, oh, because the extract say that China is modestly affected, then never mind, okay, China is going to be better off. So remember, you do not want to be lifting blindly from the extract. You want to explain what this particular sentence means. So when we talk about insulation, it simply means that they are protected. So if they are protected from foreign shocks, it simply means that domestically they must be doing better, right? To counteract the adverse shocks from foreign sector. Then we can conclude that there are domestic sources of growth. Okay, instead of net export, okay, they could face very high domestic consumption or investment. Therefore, a fall in net export is not going to be that adverse to China. So this is how you want to expand, listen carefully, build depth. Macro is all about depth. Okay, and elaborating on your points. Okay, so material standard of living, okay, therefore may not necessarily worsen for China. Next, we can also see that, okay, there's a table implanted for a good reason. Use HDI. Okay, so HDR is a composite of income, health expectancy, and education level. And therefore, if we see that despite a worsening economic crisis, but other countries' indicators or composites are still improving, then it must imply that your other areas are going to be better as well. Health expectancy and education is likely to improve. Okay, better healthcare, better access to healthcare, better education. So this is very simple mathematics. The extract already tells you income is worsening. Yes? So if the composite tracks three things, income and education and healthcare. If income is worsening but the overall composite still improve, the improvement must be attributed to the last two, healthcare and education, no other things. Then we can justify that non-material standard of living is going to improve. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run through the synthesis. For my first year students, don't need to be too concerned about synthesis. Get your body paragraph right first. So for your synthesis, I'm looking out for a critical judgment, right? So your living standards, whether or not it improve or not, it depends on what is the nature of the country, right? Small countries like Singapore, they are largely export-oriented. Then in that case, they cannot be entirely insulated, unlike China. So we can compare, okay, which country is going to be more adversely affected. Okay, so the overall effects on the Asian economies depends on what is the nature of them. Okay, so the personal favorite, the all-time best for my standard of living based question or indicator based question is this. Okay, this is my all-time favorite. You realize that no data are going to be perfect. There will always be data inadequacy. No matter how much thing they give you, there must be something that must not be mentioned in the extract. Right? If not, your extract will be a few gazillion pages long. Make sense? So you want to state things or data that are not present or absent that could make a difference. For instance, insufficient data tells us that crime rate, happiness level, and all these are not found in the extract. If they are, then this could give us an overall more complete picture. Then we can justify that. So this is my personal favorite. Okay, learn to utilize this point. Insufficient data whenever you talk about standard of living question. Okay, it's quite an easy synthesis mark to squeeze out. Okay, if you know what you're writing. Okay, so having said that, okay, I'm so sorry I exceeded by 5 minutes. Okay, so remember, okay, I have already uploaded the answer key. You can take your corrections slowly after the class. Okay, and any questions you can stay back and ask me. Okay, if not, okay, we'll take this offline. Remember to submit to this assignment by 2359 tonight. Clear? Okay, thanks, and I will see you. Bye-bye.